start a chat room or chat in an actual room. Just remember, this country wasn't built by folks waiting for opportunities to come to them. They went to their people and things got done. And if you're one of those business people, there's a range of choice hotels like Bevin for every type of business trip. Totally always have a choice. Book now at choicehotels.com.
Need a sip meal? Try Wendy's new organic, honest tropical green tea. Made with freshly brewed, lightly sweetened green tea with hints of tropical mango and pineapple flavors. It's only available at Wendy's. So come in and try one today at participating Wendy's.
Now back to Kentucky Radio on
Welcome back, KSR, Republican Kentucky Governor's Debate. All right, here's what we're doing for this section. We're going to have sort of one-on-one. I want to ask each of you questions that are really specific to you. And to be quite honest, are concerns I've heard either myself or people in the state that have about your candidacy. Just by lots drawn, Mr. Bevin, you're going to go first. You lost in the primary to Mitch McConnell in 2014. What would you say? Did you have any lessons you learned from that time and anything in hindsight you would have done differently?
No, I mean, I went into that knowing full well that it was an uphill slug. It was not going to be easy. Mitch McConnell is a guy who I had always voted for, as have many Kentuckians, for 30 years. But the reality is I think change is good. I still believe it. I've come out of that race and into this one with a greater appreciation for Kentucky.
But you never endorsed him at the end.
I went time and time again to stand and applaud for him, to encourage people to vote for him over Grimes.
I don't think you ever said, I endorse Mitch McConnell.
I never held an endorsement party. That is correct.
You did, however, say you were Rand Paul. I mean, there are some Republicans out here that say he's not a team guy. Is that not fair?
I've never endorsed another politician ever.
Mr. Ryder, let me finish with him. Now, you were filmed during a few years back at a cockfighting rally in eastern Kentucky. Are you for cockfighting?
No, nor have I ever been. And in fact, Terry was in here just a moment ago. He asked me about that specifically on his show the day after that. I've never even been to a cockfight in my entire life. I've never even participated in any way, shape, or form. I spoke to people who apparently, after I left, proved themselves to be lovers of that sport.
Well, I've seen the video. There were some signs in the background with you of people who had signs about cockfighting.
There were. I was not the case. I was in the Corbin Arena on a stage in the middle of a floor. There was nobody behind us.
Well, do you think there should be a federal law against cockfighting?
I don't think there should be a federal law. I think there should be a state law. I don't think it's a federal level issue. It's a states' rights issue, and I think it should be addressed at the state level in Kentucky and every other state.
During the last election, it came out that your LinkedIn profile said that you went to MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and it came out, and it was on your resume on LinkedIn, and then it came out that you actually only went to a 3-week class there. What happened with that?
I have not had a resume, Matt, since I got out of the military over 20 years ago. That's not a resume, number one. Number two, it has never said that. If I spent $2 million stating that you have a shrine to Rick Pitino in your basement, a lot of your listeners would believe it and be outraged. But that wouldn't mean that you do. I'm assuming you don't. The reality is you can say...
You can trust me, I know.
Exactly. So to that end, you can make up any lie you want.
So are you saying I'm making that up?
No, I'm not saying you're making it up. I'm saying the people that are spreading that lie made it up.
Okay.
Because I have never claimed, nor have you ever seen a copy of this resume? No, because it doesn't exist. And the reality is you've seen...
So you're saying there was no profile on LinkedIn?
Never in my life have I ever claimed to have graduated from MIT, ever.
All right, you actually had good timing, an ad that ran right before we started here. And you say that Obama has a war on Kentucky. Now I always hear that phrase, and granted, I know you all don't like Obama. I actually do a little bit. But what is that? I was wondering, what does that phrase mean? What is the war?
I mean, take a look at his stated intention. He said, you can start new coal-fired power plants, but I will bankrupt them. Now, that would seem to me to be somebody who is not exactly in line with what has long been a core part of our economy.
Do you believe Obama hates Kentucky?
Well, let me just say this. He showed up here one time in the last 7 years. We had a massive flood. The GE plant burned down. Kids were stuck on buses till 8 o'clock at night. I'm just saying.
So do you believe he hates Kentucky?
I don't know. I don't think the planets are very well lined up. I don't know the man personally. I can't speak for who he hates or who he doesn't. His behavior would indicate that we're not his favorite state.
Okay. All right, thank you. Mr. Cohen. Now, to be honest with you, this isn't easy to talk about, but we got to talk about Courier-Journal has a story about allegations that you physically and mentally abused your college girlfriend. I know you had a press conference about it yesterday. Are any of the comments or any of the parts of the story of the Courier-Journal true?
No, and that's dirty politics at its worst. As I said in my opening statement, we've been through a lot with negative ads and just whisper, smear campaigns. There was a blogger in Lexington that had been saying dishonest things about me for over a year. And when the Lexington Herald Leader reporter, Sam Youngman, finally figured out who this real blogger was, he asked him if he had ever met me. He said no. He asked if you ever met any of the people you claim he mistreated, and he said no. He said, where are you getting your information from? He said the Heiner Crosby campaign.
All right, we'll get to that. Did you have a relationship with that woman?
I had a relationship in college.
Did you, in the course of that relationship, ever lose your temper?
No, never.
So
I've had relationships in college and in high school and after college with different women, and I don't think you would find any woman that would ever say anything but good things. That's going way out on a limb here, Matt.
So why do you think this happened? Why? I mean, leave aside because I'm going to ask you about where this came from. But why would this woman and her mother make this up?
Well, her mother didn't. Her mother said that there was a phone call late at night, and it came from me. That's just not true.
Okay.
The thing with the whole story, it's funny. It came out right before the lieutenant governor debate. I'm real proud of my lieutenant governor pick, Chris McDaniel, Senator McDaniel from Northern Kentucky. He stood out in that debate. In my opinion, he blew it out of the water. The story came out at the heels of a new poll, which shows me ahead.
So is there anything in that story at all that is true, besides the fact that you had a relationship?
I knew the girl. We were future farmers of America, state officers. One thing that wasn't in the story that my wife and I, when we had a press conference yesterday in Lexington to talk about, was the fact that after we quit having a relationship, which in my memory ended on good terms, we saw each other at a 10-year state FFA convention.
Were things positive then?
Very positive.
Right,
she sent me a gift. She came to New York City when I was in New York City to visit me, brought me a gift. That's not the behavior of someone that would be treated the way she claimed I treated.
You said yesterday, and I'd like you to be specific about this. You said yesterday that you believe the people behind this story were, quote, shadowy characters. Do you believe Hal Heiner is one of those shadowy characters?
I believe people in his campaign.
Do you believe he knew about it?
Well, I mean, you have to accept the responsibility. If you're the leader of the ticket, and your running mate and her spouse has been meeting with and emailing back and forth. One of the emails I want you to be specific on this. Do you believe Hal Heiner was part of this story coming out? I certainly hope not, but his campaign was, yes.
Okay. You mentioned that you were going to sue the Courier-Journal, or thinking about suing the Courier-Journal. Are you going to sue the Courier-Journal about this story?
Yes, we have retained Frost Brown Todd, and we are exploring every legal option.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Cohen. Mr. Scott,
hey,
you being on a former judge and on the Kentucky Supreme Court, have made criminal justice reform a big part of your campaign. Do you believe, you talk about drug treatment should take over some of the drug population in prisons. Do you believe that there are too many Kentuckians in prison, and what would you do about it?
Well, Matt, the people have to understand in 72 we had 2,700 people in all the prisons in Kentucky and 3.3 million population. You fast forward to 2010, we grew 25% to 4.4 million, but our prison population went up to 23,000. Yeah, I say 70% of those. And it's down 21,000 now after Bill 463 and 15. But I say 70% of those 21,000 are there for addiction-related problems that our prison is not addressing at all.
So do you
and when
think
they come out, they rob us again.
Do you think criminal sentences in Kentucky are too long?
No, I think our judges use good discretion on our sentencing parameters.
So how do you explain that massive increase in prison population if the sentences are not too long? You just think Kentucky's
sentence time has nothing to do with this. It is drug addiction. In 72, we were a drug-free society. In the 2000s, we are a drug-addicted society. It's grown from 2,700 to 23,000. So we are recovering 45 out of 100 through our drug courts. We have great drug court judges, men and women. We're missing 55%. So what I'm saying is, let me shift some money over to the minimum security prisons, put high schools, colleges, real skills training facilities in them, and put psychiatrists, psychologists, and peer counselors in there, and I'll run them through and wash them a second time, and when my counselors at the minimum security prison call the drug court judge back and say, this young lady's ready, she will recover this time, we'll send them back. And by doing that twice, we will reach 70% in Kentucky will be safe again. And then I can manage the rest of them in my medium security system.
Do you think Steve Beshear was a good governor?
Yes, I think Steve was a good governor.
So
I think he did what he could with what he had. I'm not going to criticize Steve or Jay. I mean, I've sat down there for the last 4 years with him. Would I agree with everything he did? No. But was he a good governor? Have there been any scandals? No. So I'm not going to criticize him. We've got 4.4 million people that are out there, brothers and sisters, but we're all Kentuckians. And if we don't run this government for everybody, then we're not doing the right job.
All right, thank you, Mr. Scott. Mr. Heiner, I want to start with, did you have anything to do with the story in the Courier-Journal, any knowledge at all about Mr. Comer?
Had absolutely nothing to do with it. I was totally unaware of any connection of anyone associated with this campaign. When I learned about it, quite frankly, through the Lexington Herald-Leader article,
Are you saying
that there had been some contact with the blogger, I addressed it.
Are you saying that you had never heard anything about it until, because, I mean, to be honest with you, I'd heard about it, so are you saying you had never heard anything about it before the Lexington Herald-Leader article?
No, I'm saying these rumors have circulated in Kentucky long before I got in this campaign. But I've made it clear to my campaign staff, we've run a clean campaign for 61 weeks. We have been directly on target, talking about what's possible for the future of Kentucky. You ask anybody in our campaign group, we're not touching anything related to character and won't. So I was unaware, and once I found out that there had been contact with this blogger, I think last fall, I addressed it and make sure that that there wouldn't be any future contact.
So when you found out that your lieutenant governor's husband had met with the blogger and had talked with him about it, why not ask the lieutenant governor to resign from your campaign?
There had been some contact, but my point in this whole thing is everything that's come from this campaign. I've been in hundreds of forums. We've put out all kinds of material trying to communicate with Kentuckians. Not one item has addressed the character of any person on this stage. So we haven't used it. I was unaware of it. It's my campaign.
But now
it's my responsibility.
But you found out about it. So again, I ask, you don't think that rises to require Mrs. Crosby to resign?
The fact that her husband, there was exchange of an email, absolutely not. I was unaware of it.
All right, I want to ask the other three candidates, Mr. Scott, Mr. Heiner, Mr. Bevin, do you believe the Courier-Journal story disqualifies Mr. Comer from the race? Mr. Scott?
Yeah, I don't deal in yesterdays, Matt, and I'm not going to deal in yesterdays on this show. I'm looking at tomorrow's problems and offering solutions, and that's where Will T. Scott has always been, and that's where I'm going to stay.
So I would assume no.
That's right.
Okay, Mr. Heiner.
This is between Jamie Comer and the young lady, and our campaign will not address it.
So you do not believe it disqualifies him from being governor?
Our campaign is focused on moving Kentucky forward, and that's where we're going to stay.
Okay, Mr. Bevin?
For all I've seen, it's allegation. It's uncorroborated or substantiated at this point. I've never been a believer, nor is America built on the premise that you ask people to be disqualified from things based on rumors and allegations. And so at this point, I don't think there's enough facts one way or the other to be able to make that determination. I do, however, absolutely believe that Hal Heiner has surrounded himself with the surliest and sorriest group of people who have smeared and assassinated other people in this race. And he can sit here and tell people that he has said nothing but positive things. His former campaign manager is behind all of this noise, and people should be well aware of that.
So you do believe Mr. Heiner was behind the Comer story?
I don't know if he's behind the Comer story, but I'm telling you, his people have been pushing this for a long time, and Hal himself has personally told me months and months ago, before I even got in this race, that he knew things, not had heard things, that he knew things based on conversation that his people had had about Jamie Comer. You told me that yourself, Hal. You told me in your office, to my face. The reality is Hal Heiner is not who he pretends to be.
Mr. Heiner, you can respond.
Yeah, it's no surprise that, that we attacked here by Matt Bevin. He's done nothing but attack for the last 2 years. Attack, attack, attack. He'll say anything to get elected.
Name one attack.
He's sending out robocalls right now with all kinds of smear stuff going. So what we're seeing is someone that's saying he's against attacks at the same time that he is attacking. He's saying he's against Obamacare, but he wants to move all the Kentuckians to Obamacare. He says he's for less government, he's against bailouts, but his own business, he takes bailouts. He'll say anything to get elected.
Okay.
And I'll say it, he's just like Jack Conway. Ran for Senate, now he's running for governor.
All right.
I'm focusing on what we have to do in Kentucky. We have very serious issues. We're at a crossroads.
All right,
we need
there
to
we go.
move forward.
We got to stop. All right. I'll start with you on this, Mr. Comer. This is the final question in this area. If you do not win, will you support whoever wins this election? This will be for all of you. Start with you, Mr. Comer. The Republican.
I'm going to win.
If you don't.
If I don't win, I will support the Republican nominee unless it's proven that illegal activity occurred.
Mr. Scott.
Well, if one of these fellas is lucky enough to beat me, I'll support them, even if they made me mad.
Mr. Heiner.
Yes, we cannot have Jack Conway as governor. We've gone nowhere in 8 years. We're in trouble. We need a Republican governor, and I will.
Mr. Bevin.
Yes, any of the four of us at this table are far more qualified to be the next governor than Jack Conway, no question.
Okay, final segment here. You're going to each get to ask one question to one of the other candidates of your choice. Mr. Scott, I will start with you. Please make it to one candidate, and you will have a minute to respond, assuming we all move diligently. Mr. Scott.
Well, I'll ask Jamie this question. I've given thousands of constitutional oaths to people, and Kentucky expects people to comply with them. But the constitutional oath that you give for Attorney General, says that you will perform the office of Attorney General to the best of your ability and according to law. Now, if Jack Conway can't keep it as Attorney General, how in the world, Jamie, can we trust him to follow the constitutional oath on December the 8th of 2015 if he's the next governor?
I agree completely with you, Will T. We cannot trust him. He does not need to be governor. His one responsibility, his most important responsibility as Attorney General is to uphold the Constitution of Kentucky. The voters made it clear in 2004, and I was in the General Assembly when we passed the bill to put the amendment on the ballot by a 2-to-1 margin. As Matt said, by a 2-to-1 margin, the voters of Kentucky approved the last constitutional amendment, which clearly stated same-sex marriages would not be legal in Kentucky, nor would we recognize same-sex marriages performed in other states. So Jack Conway failed to uphold the Constitution, and I agree. I do not think we can trust him to be governor.
All right, Mr. Heiner, your question and who it's directed to.
Yeah, I have a question for Justice Scott. Justice Scott, when we've been on the trail, you talked about changing the prison system. And you talked some about medium security prison or change. Would you give some detail on what you're talking about? Are you talking about building new prisons here in Kentucky, or if you just give some detail on what your plan is?
Our medium security prisons cost us about $100,000 per bed. And by my calculations, based upon the Campbell County minimum security facility they built most recently, I think I can build minimum security beds for about $6,500. And it costs us $19,000, $29,000 to manage the prisoners per year in these institutions. I think we could take all that savings and we could actually build high schools and colleges in a nice minimum security facility, put in counselors, psychiatrists, peer counselors, and psychologists, and using a word, I just say I'll wash them twice, is what I mean. I run them through and say they'll be in that minimum security for 1 to 10 years if they failed our drug courts. But I run them through and I give them 2 chances, and these are nonviolent people, non-sexual predatory people. I can increase the recovery rate up to 70%, and with my other programs, keep them in recovery, and Kentucky's safe again. That's what I'm talking about.
Mr. Bevin, a question, who's it to, and what's your question?
My question is for Mr. Heiner. Mr. Heiner, you have stated that you are a supporter of Second Amendment rights, but when you were a city councilman, you voted to restrict the ability for concealed carry gun owners to carry into city buildings. You have stated that you're against tolling in Northern Kentucky, but you supported the referendum that led to the tolling authority in Louisville. You have stated before the Chamber of Commerce that you were in favor of keeping the Kynect program, but now you state that you're against it. So given your flip-flopping nature over the course of the last couple of years, what would give the voters in Big Blue Nation and in Kentucky in general any confidence that you're actually of the caliber needed to lead this state forward?
Well, Matt, what would give them confidence is your nonstop mischaracterizations of my policy positions. I have been consistent. I will say on Second Amendment rights, I've received the highest rating from the NRA. I'm a life member. I'm a hunter. Most of quite frankly, the meat our family eats is deer meat. I've harvested on our farm. And there will be no infringements on gun rights in Kentucky.
Did you vote?
With me as governor.
Did you vote? Let him answer.
Yeah. Secondly, you were talking about Kynect. There has been no flip-flop. Different than you, I am not willing to kick 330,000 people to the curb and destroy the healthcare system that's available in 75% of Kentucky today on a knee-jerk position that you've taken.
All right, finally, Mr. Comer, you have a question for anyone, and what is it?
I'm going to pick Hal Einer. Hal, I've traveled the state for 4 years as Commissioner of Agriculture. I've traveled the state extensively for 8 months. I think the consensus among the people of this state, especially over the last 24 hours, is that you're the Christian Laettner of Kentucky politics. If you see an email that was sent from your running mate to this blogger, encouraging this blogger to contact all the Republican Party chairs and vice chairs of the state and spreading lies about me, coordinating, which is illegal on its own, with this blogger, how would you react to that as the leader of your ticket with your running mate and your campaign staff?
Mr. Einer, since 2 questions have gone to you, I will give you a minute to answer that.
Okay, thank you. And I'm not maybe understand the exact charge here, but what I will say is that I think there's some new news out this morning that finds that your campaign's been right in the middle of it as well. So, because this issue's been swirling around forever. As I said before, I was unaware of any contact. I've made it clear to my campaign staff and those involved that we're going to focus. This is a very important time in Kentucky, and we're going to focus on where we can go in Kentucky. I'm not responsible for what any blogger or any other individual does in this state. When I heard what happened last fall, I've addressed it. But to insinuate that somehow we're behind this is totally and absolutely false. And it's not part of the campaign. It's not the campaign we've been running for 61 weeks, and not the campaign we'll be running these last 2 weeks.
Okay. Folks, first of all, let me say thank you all very much for doing this. I actually think this was very helpful, very interesting, but also I think it says a lot about all 4 of you that you would do it. This is not the easiest forum for people to come in here. Believe me, in dealing with the 2 Senate candidates the last time, getting this set up was extremely difficult. With you guys, it was wonderfully easy. I very much appreciate it. I wish you luck on Election Day, which I believe is 2 weeks from yesterday. Is that correct? 2 weeks from yesterday. We thank you all very much. For those of you listening on the radio, don't turn us off. Brian and I will be back in the second hour to discuss a little bit of what happened, and we're going to talk some sports as well here on Kentucky Sports Radio. But we very much thank you. Just so you guys know, the numbers were through the roof in terms of this. So a lot of people were interested. You had a big audience. Thank you very much for doing it. We'll take a break and come back for hour number 2. This is Kentucky Sports Radio.